What's going on, guys? Monday morning. Just wanted to show you my quick breakfast. It's like my breakfast and pre-training meal, so pretty small. It's kind of high fat. I think the macros in this were like over 20 grams of fat and about like 40 or 50 carbs and about 30 grams of protein. So it's just 2 whole eggs cooked up on a tortilla here. This is like a Chi-Chi's 100% whole wheat tortilla. So that had like 5 grams of fat itself. 2 whole eggs, 4 egg whites, a wedge of the Laughing Cow Chipotle cheese. It's like a cream cheese spread, so I just put that on the tortilla, and then just one like 2% Kraft single except store brand. So just a quick meal, easy to put together, and gonna eat this and probably head to the gym in like an hour. I'm also gonna be taking my like creatine and vitamin D, just because those are like supplements that I take every day, and it's just easier for me to remember to take them in the morning. It doesn't really matter when you take them. And one more thing I want to mention is that I'm just drinking water. Haven't had any coffee or like pre-workout or Monster, any real caffeine except for like green tea in the past probably like 3 weeks now. So been like completely off caffeine. The only thing I'll have is maybe 1 cup of green tea per day. I haven't had tea in a few days now, so pretty much no caffeine, but still feeling good, and I'm able to get my training in and have really good sessions. So just wanted to let you guys know, and I'll see you in the next clip. It's going to be training. What's going on, guys? Harry here. Training on this day ended up going really well. Like I mentioned in the previous video, my last training day of last week was Friday, so I ended up having the entire weekend off from training, which really hasn't happened in a long time. So I feel like it really allowed me to recover just a little bit more and just kind of come in a lot more prepared for this workout. So this was 3 sets of 8 at 340 pounds. I believe this was about 75%. So I've never hit this weight for multiple sets of 8, or I think it was 4 sets of 8 actually. This week, week 2 of this first 4-week block of my training, of my prep for this meet, is like the highest volume block, or the highest volume week. So after here, it's probably the volume's just going to drop off leading up until the meet. But again, 4 sets of 8 for my hypertrophy day this week, and it moved really well, so I was really happy with that. Form and everything looks good to me. One thing that I did change was my hand position. So typically I'll use my bench grip, which would be my ring finger on the ring and the knurling. And just because I mentioned last week that my bicep and forearm were hurting and like my elbow joint, so I decided to move my grip out just a little bit, just to take a little bit of stress off there, and I had absolutely no discomfort during this workout, so I was really happy about that. I recorded a few different angles of all my sets for you guys, and again, I'm just really happy with the way that these looked. After my check-in this weekend with my coach Joe, he kind of gave me some more cues to think about while squatting. So one thing, obviously whenever I squat, I always try to think chest up, and I mentioned that to Joe, and he said another cue that I could think about that'll indirectly bring my chest up is thinking about driving like my traps into the bar. So just kind of standing up and keeping my traps digging backwards, which will indirectly bring my chest up. So again, really happy with the way that these look. It's probably like the 3rd or 4th time I've said that, but I think I'm starting to like find my groove when it comes to these low bar squats. So really happy with it. One other thing since the weekend is I've been stricter with my macros, which is like the first time in probably like over a year that I've actually tracked like everything I ate and have been consistent. So right now my macros are 80 grams of fat, 400 carbs, and between like 200 and 225 protein. So I'm currently weighing like 95 kilograms, so that's about 209. So about 4 pounds over the weight that I need to be in 7 weeks, but I'm really not too worried about that. And just going to see what happens with my weight now that I'm being a little bit more strict with my macros. So bench press, this was a strength day. It was going for 260 pounds for 3 sets of 5. All of these moved really smooth. Again, I was really happy with the way that these looked. Overall, this was a really good training session. Another thing that Joe and I talked about this weekend during like my check-in was trying to get a little bit more leg drive, more active leg drive on the bench press. I've pretty much never had any leg drive when it comes to bench pressing, and I'm not really sure why. I've just never been able to actually do it. I do keep my glutes like as tight as possible while they're on the bench, so I guess it's kind of like a passive leg drive, but never really been active like seeing my hips thrust up. So something that Joe told me to think about is kind of doing like a leg extension into the floor, which didn't really make much sense to me, and it just sounds strange because a leg extension would be extending your quads or extending your knees and contracting your quads. So I don't see, like, I tried it on a few of my warm-ups and on a few of my working sets, and I really didn't even notice my legs moved at all. The only thing that really happened was my heels kind of came up, because when I think of doing a leg extension, it's kind of being like kind of pushing my toes out, so like plantar flexing my feet, and it just didn't make sense to me in my head. So I'm sure there are other cues that I could think about, so I'll talk to Joe about that this coming weekend. Second day of this week of training was deadlift and squat. So this is deadlift power and then squat power. So this was 10 sets of 1 at 430. Again, I think 430 is about 72%. So just a bunch of singles. Like I mentioned in the previous few videos, I'm only going to be doing singles this entire prep, and really looking forward to seeing how that works, because these like 10 sets of 1 at 430 were pretty much effortless. It really didn't feel heavy at all, and I don't really know if it's supposed to feel that way. Again, it's a power day, so I was trying to just move the weight as fast as possible while keeping my form pretty good. One thing that Joe mentioned to me after seeing my last deadlift clips were just trying to keep my hips down a little bit, or trying to keep my hips up a little bit higher, because they were tending to shoot up a few inches right before the bar broke the floor. So just to avoid losing any power that way, just so that as the bar breaks the floor, my hips start moving and they kind of work at the same time instead of my hips coming up a little bit first. So moving into squats, this was the same weight actually that I hit yesterday for 4 sets of 8, so I kind of thought it would be a little bit lighter, but it did feel kind of heavy on my back, and all the reps moved really well. I was really happy with it. But one thing is that after the first set, my forearm, bicep, elbow pain kind of came back a little bit, so I did wrap it with a voodoo band in the middle of my sets just to kind of alleviate some of the pain, and that worked really well. But again, I was really happy with it. Here I got this angle so that you guys could kind of see the width of my stance. I moved it out quite a bit from switching from high bar to low bar, but this is really comfortable for me. Maybe a little bit too far out. I'm still trying to play around with that, but just trying to figure out what allows me to get down to proper depth while also kind of feeling comfortable and having the most power coming out of the hole. So thanks again to everybody watching these videos so far. Really just want to have this footage. One thing, because Joe wants me to send them over training footage every week, so I figured that this would be a great way to do it. And another thing, it's just something for me to look back on when, like in the future, when it comes time to prep for another competition. So again, let me know what else you guys want to see in these videos, and we'll see you in the next one. Definitely a PR for me, hitting 3 sets of 6 at 365, so looking forward to